When men first learn about hypnosis in their lives, it is no wonder the thought of inducing orgasms through simple suggestions is kind of penetrating their mind. However, you have some plausible ways this can be done, and you have some not so great, see even dangerous ways of doing it. Or even some ways that have been, I think, overly embellished into modern culture, but don't really work that well. So in this video, I wanted to share my personal experience, showing what worked the best for me, what didn't work, and what you can do if you want to play using some of those tricks with your girlfriend. As a disclaimer, since playing with orgasm and hypnosis can create intense states of emotional dependency, I want to state that every piece of advice I share during this video is presupposing you are interacting with a fully consent mature adult who has given you her full verbal agreement out loud to say she agreed that you play with her mind in that way. Finally, before getting into how it's done, since I am talking from a man's perspective, or at least I do identify as a man for sure. Since I talk from a man's perspective, talking about women's psychology and sexuality, I would encourage you to mix anything I say with advice and the views of actual women who are used to work with other women on their sexuality. To that extent, I would definitely recommend the channels of Caitlin V, a great content creator, awesome advice, and Dr. Rina Malik, who can give you a lot of tips about medical condition if you or your partner have some issues with that. Now, from my own experience, what works with one woman may not always work with another. Sometimes they are very different, and what really was astonishing for me is that even among each other, they don't talk that much about those things when they have issues. Because due to the conditioning, I guess, in our society, presupposing the man's pleasure has to come before anything else, at least in the bedroom, then many women who have repressed, they have issues in their body or in their mind about sexuality, they won't really talk about it that much unless they go to a therapist, and even then they might have trouble to share openly about it because they presuppose, no, if they don't have any pleasure, it is just normal because as long as their man does have pleasure, then it's fine. You don't realize how many women I had in therapy having problems with this and reporting that when they were talking about it with their female friends, no one really had any advice. They just said, oh, take your time, be comfortable with your boyfriend, but they didn't really have serious advice for how does that work in the inside. So I want to go with you over the main blockages women can have with their sexuality that might be causing issues in that sense, that might be decreasing the amount of pleasure they can actually experience in the bedroom, even when she's your girlfriend, she trusts you. Even with that, she might have issues with letting go enough to experience intense pleasure and to unlock the possibility of amplifying that pleasure through hypnosis. The first one is obviously a negative upbringing. If she grew up in an extremely conservative family that never talked about sexuality in any way because it was the devil or something like this, for sure it can create some resistance in her mind from fully letting go in the bedroom with her boyfriend. Next, we have a massive thing in society about the whole conditioning. Many women think or believe unconsciously that if they let go too fast, too soon with a guy, then they are a somehow. They are not worthy enough. If they let go too fast, either emotionally or physically, then they are not worthy of anything. Not all women have this belief, but some of them do have it, and they might have more trouble to experience a great deal of affection or a pleasure with somebody because they don't know how it works. Then we have the one everyone might expect. If she has had some previous boyfriend who was violent with her, who almost tried to force her, definitely she will have reluctance or blockages with the next guy she sleeps with, or she might have increased difficulty to experience a great letting go with him. And then we have the last thing, less common, but I saw some women having trouble with this, the expectations set by Hollywood. That in, not even in porn movies, just in regular movies, when you see two adults having an intercourse, quite often it seems like it is an explosion of pleasure right away, even when they barely know each other. In reality, most people have trouble to let go that fast, especially women. They don't necessarily need more time, but they need enough trust. And trust is not easy to give to anybody, especially for a girl who has been abused, who has been damaged mentally by some ex-boyfriend. That might be difficult for her to really give enough trust to experience that level of explosion from the first time she sleeps with somebody new. Now that we have clarified those issues that you need to take into consideration when you exchange with your partner, figure out her story, what she believes about sex, what she believes that is normal or not normal in the bedroom, you really need to clarify that with her and have some discussion, just figuring out, okay, where is she? Is she already very comfortable in her own body? Is she not comfortable at all and she is even scared you see her naked? You just have to meet her where she is in the beginning. It is true they don't build up pleasure in the same way. Usually males' sexuality builds up in medium time or can build up really fast, but then it tends to stay stagnant. Once men are excited, they tend to stay there until they're done. Women usually have more ups and downs, or at least they can have higher ups and lower downs than men usually have in the bedroom. Which means that any wrong behavior or wrong talk, wrong word used in the bedroom might make her cold right away, but also if you know how to talk to her and talk to that hidden part of her mind, she can also go way higher in terms of excitement than what you are used to experience with your girlfriend. And before going in depth into how that works and how you can trigger that state in herself in the bedroom, you have 5 language patterns down below. You can use earlier because those ones are made for the seduction phase, when you don't yet know the person that well, but you would like to seduce her in an ethical way and you would like to tantalize her thoughts in the best way possible so that she wants to meet you again. Those 5 language patterns are the ones I have used the most whenever I wanted to get somebody more comfortable with me and let go with me more easily. You can download them right away, and with that in mind, let's proceed into the how hypnotic conditioning can be used in the bedroom. Every hypnosis is nothing but self-hypnosis. What does that mean? Basically, when people get themselves into a deep state of trance, it is usually because they have conditioned themselves, they have pre-framed their own mind with the help of a hypnotist or not to get into that state. And then the hypnotist just becomes a facilitator to access that state, which is inherent to how the brain works. All of us have this innate capacity to get inside and experience things more deeply with more juice in our emotions and our feelings. So translated to erotic hypnosis or seduction, it is about building more anticipation before the action actually starts, which might relate with foreplay. But here we talk more about mental foreplay than anything physical just yet, which is where my opinion drastically differs from the one of many sexologists. I have heard women giving advice to other women, because they quite often say that women just take way longer to get ready than men, and I have a strong point of disagreement with that statement, which is that it doesn't take that long if she has rehearsed in her mind for long enough before the action starts. If a woman has been fantasizing about what was going to happen with a guy she's fond of before it happens, then the moment where they both finally get undressed, you can bet she's going to escalate pleasure pretty quickly, maybe even way more quickly than him. So the whole point is more to make her imagine what is going to happen before it happens, and more importantly, in my experience, letting her imagine what is going to happen without letting her know when it is going to happen. Which is another strong disagreement I have with many advice on that topic. When women, for example, say that during the intercourse, if there is penetration, that when the guy finds the right spot during the penetration, he has to maintain the same pace and the same rhythm for her to reach orgasm. And that is something I heard many times. Where I disagree is that if you always keep everything the same, it might also get boring sometimes, whereas when you keep breaking rhythm and sometimes going really fast and really touching her with a strong intent and then slowing down, going mellow, or even saying, no, not right now, you're not ready yet, well, take a second please, you're getting way too horny right now, please give me a break. You do that in a gentle way, of course it is not made to shame her in any way, it is just made to push and pull, letting her build up the anticipation of pleasure and then taking that slightly away from her. Because if she never knows exactly when it is going to happen or when she thinks it is on and you are getting on yourself and then you pull back and say, no, 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 not right now, and saying things like, oh, I just want to do so many things to you, but not right now. Let's keep polite, you and I, shall we? That is, from my experience, what builds up the most tension and anticipation, because then she craves for more. If you always try to push, she might just say, whoa, slow down, slow down. But when she is the one who wants it and you start to push her away, not too much, but just slightly for her to want to get more, then definitely she will escalate the level of pleasure she can experience way faster. There is a great example of that in the movie 50 Shades Darker, when he's starting to play with her genitals, to stay polite, and whenever she's about to reach orgasm, he's pulling back and refusing her the orgasm. Between them it is a slight play, and in this actual scene he is even going too far and she tells him to stop, which he does. By the way, great example of communication. When she tells you to stop, definitely stop. But if we only remember the idea, it is exactly the principle behind that. She has to anticipate in her mind more and more what is going to happen, which can be done through making her imagine, visualize something that will happen between you and her, or making her remember the best experiences she's had and asking her to describe what it was, because the more she thinks about it before it happens, the more it will be easy, even physically in terms of dilatation, if you see what I mean, to experience stronger levels of pleasure. Then we have a permissive language. Any lack of responsiveness physically, emotionally in the bedroom is, to me, only a lack of trust. It happened to me more than once that the first time we had sex, things were kind of awkward and we were not really letting go, neither I nor her. But then after the fourth or fifth time, then she was just going full on with me barely touching her, barely. Because at this point she was trusting me enough. So when a woman really trusts you, you don't need to do that much. You just need to push the right buttons, metaphorically and physically sometimes, and that will definitely amplify everything. The metaphor I like to use for that purpose is you and her, both of you are in a bubble, a safe space. You have to condition yourself to think that way and her mind in the same way, to believe that when you two are together, everything is allowed. Everything obviously within mutual consent, for sure. Everything is allowed in terms of accessing pleasure. As we said earlier, many women just don't have access to their sexuality in the deepest ways because they have been conditioned to believe it was bad, or they have had so many bad experiences from ex-boyfriends who were just douchebags that they don't even know it is possible to not be on the defensive in the bedroom on that level. So during foreplay, I tend to use language patterns like, you know, you have the right to feel this. It is your birthright to feel that powerful as a woman. And I might even amplify this a little bit, but I just play with the representation that it is okay to stop controlling. Coming back to the idea of breaking rhythm, if she's always controlling what happens, it is also a problem if she is not used to let go in the bedroom. So when you always let her control her own orgasm, that might be great if she's already used to it, but if she is not used to access higher levels of pleasure, then her controlling her mind non-stop is not going to help in any way. Therefore, suggesting her that it is okay to let go, she has the right to experience this, and the more you touch her, the more you make her imagine that as I am touching you right now, you can feel inside your belly all the sensations coming up, and the higher they go, the more deeply you can feel powerfully what is going on inside just right now. And I just play with those language patterns up to the point where she is letting herself be guided by my voice, and this is usually during foreplay, until she's reaching a high level of orgasm, and then usually everything is way more exciting both for her and for me. And when comes the final release, I don't do all the time depending on the surroundings, but I even tell her to go louder. so many people are just trying to repress themselves and contain everything inside that they don't even express out loud what they feel. In the bedroom, I definitely want her, if possible within the context, to be louder. When she's going to have an orgasm, I want her to not scream, but express it, because if she's just having it internally, first of all, it is less easy for me to communicate with her and figure out, okay, when do you enjoy what I do and when do you not enjoy what I do? I need to know to better adapt to you. And the louder she goes, from my experience again, the more she's releasing all kinds of tension. The first time I did this, she went really loud, this one, and afterward, when she was walking, she was all soft like this, like because she has never been used to completely release everything. So an orgasm can be a way to release even emotional tensions from anything else. For that to happen though, she has to drop down the mental barriers and just connect fully to her body. So any suggestions like the more I touch you, the more you can feel the pressure of my fingers inside you, and as I whisper into your ear, you can start to visualize what's going to happen in about 2 minutes. And what's going to happen in about 2 minutes is obviously her having an orgasm. And when she is about to have it, or when I can see her breath is getting like faster, then I definitely condition, as I said before, that when it is going to happen, she is going to explode. But I tell her though that, for example, she's not allowed to finally explode until I tell her to do so. And I reinforce that image in her mind. As I touch her, I just reinforce the image that when she's going to have an orgasm, it is going to completely shake her whole body. The more I play on those representations in her mind, the higher she's going to experience that state when I will tell her to my command to do so. Obviously, she might have other orgasms before I get there, or when I give the command to finally let go and explode, maybe she won't have an actual orgasm, but if she has anticipated that in her mind enough, she will still have a great amount of pleasure building up inside her body at that moment when I tell her to do so. Finally, when you are doing hypnosis in that sense, especially when it is a physical intercourse like this, you have to realize that your entire body and behavior is a hypnotic tool somehow. It is not just your voice or just the words you say, it is really your whole eye contact, your whole behavior when you're with her. Whenever I sense she is escalating the pleasure, I basically play with my face and with my voice and with my eyes exactly as if I was going to have an orgasm myself, which is not the case in that context, at that specific moment, but the more I play as if I was going to explode myself, the more she is going to explode even higher. Because it is another big misconception in sexuality, the belief that an orgasm is purely mechanical and if you push the right button, everything happens. No, it is something that's supposed to happen with two people, unless she's just masturbating. Otherwise, it has to happen between two individuals. And when the first one is really aware of the reactions non-verbally of the partner, then both of them can experience greater pleasure in turn. So whenever I sense through her breath, through her facial expression that she is getting deeper into pleasure, I definitely play with my voice. I'm not going to do it right now out of some discomfort in this video, but I just play with my voice so that she escalates even more and sometimes even beyond what she's used to experience. It happened to me more than once, therefore, to have an experience with a woman who said that before that point she just ended up presupposing her body was broken and that there was no way to fix it, because when she talks with her female friends, they all tell her, oh, just do this, just touch yourself like this, and you just have to be comfortable with your boyfriend, then it's fine. And for them it was just not working like this because of many reasons. And with me, one step at a time, slowly, I was intuitively unlocking their mind in that sense, and in the end, the more comfortable they were feeling with me, the more their body was getting unlocked by itself, up to the point where their mind was not controlling anything anymore. They were just fully in the moment, and this is when the sex can be incredibly great. With those great images in your mind, and I hope it was not too evocative for you, we are still on YouTube after all, we have to stay polite, you know, you have documented down down below called the 5 language patterns to create intense sexual connections. It is more geared at the seduction phase, the seduction process, presupposing you're just about to meet somebody or you have just met her and you want to escalate things in a mutually consent way, and you can practice with those language patterns whenever you have the opportunity to do so. With that in mind, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have any questions, you just ask them down below in the comment section, and see you soon in the next video.